Good morning. I'm coming to you today with some breaking news from the Supreme Court of the United States, who, in my opinion, got the ruling yesterday completely and utterly wrong according to the U.S. Constitution. The case, in case you missed my previous show on this, was a gay couple who went into a bakery in Colorado to order their wedding cake. The bakery is not labeled a Christian bakery. It's not a church. And its owner is not a priest or a minister. The owner was not being asked to attend the wedding or even sanction it. He was asked to do his job, which was to bake a cake for the wedding. He chose not to do that, and the couple sued, and it went to the Supreme Court. Now, I want to make something clear because I've already done many shows, and you all know that I support the LGBTQ community. I support their rights to be treated as human beings and as American citizens, meaning that they have the same rights that as a heterosexual woman, I do. They have the right to love who they choose. They have a right to get married. And this is not a show that is going to reiterate all of the reasons why gay people should be able to get married. The bottom line is the U.S. Supreme Court decided that they could. So gay marriage is legal, whether you like it or not. This is not about gay marriage, but it's scary. It's really scary because what this ruling has done, along with a few others, is it has taken freedom of religion and turned it into forcible religion, which our government says is not legal. It is not legal for anyone to force their religious beliefs on anybody else. What freedom of religion truly says is that the government cannot close down a church because they don't like what the church message is. They can't disallow any American citizen to go to church, to practice their religion. And believe me, there are many religions in this country that really aren't religions, but they qualify as religions. And because of that First Amendment, they're allowed to practice their religion. They're not allowed to force it down anybody else's throat. By being free to practice the religion of your choice, that means you can go to church on Sunday. You can pray anywhere you want. You can raise your children in your religion. But it doesn't mean that it gives you the right to discriminate about those who disagree with your religion or refuse to practice it, or do something that is against your religion. By voting for the baker in this case, the Supreme Court is basically saying that any business owner who claims it is against his religion can refuse service to anybody he chooses just because he doesn't like their lifestyle. We're now going to have a litmus test before we can order a cake or maybe a pizza or hire a photographer. This is a very slippery slope. Back 50, 60 years ago, if I were engaged to a black man, a baker who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan could have refused to make my wedding cake. This same baker who is refusing to do a gay wedding cake could also refuse to do a baby shower cake if the woman doesn't have a husband, because his church says you can't have a baby without having a husband. You see where I'm going with this? His church may not believe in divorce. So if I'm divorced and I go into his bakery, he could say, have you been divorced? Well, see, my church doesn't believe in divorce. So in my opinion, you're still married to your first husband. I'm not baking you a cake. It's a very slippery slope that we're coming down. Here's the problem. The Supreme Court, our government, is overstepping its boundaries, because the reason we have separation of church and state in this country is so that the church can't influence laws. And it is also so the government can't stop someone from practicing their religion. But let's really talk about what this is. We had the Hobby Lobby case, remember? We talked about that a lot on this show, where someone used their religion as an excuse to force their female employees to pay out of pocket for birth control. Legal birth control, not abortion. Legal birth control. They didn't want it on their company insurance plan, and the Supreme Court said that was okay. For the boss of a company to use his religious beliefs to force his female employees to bow down to his God. They didn't work for a church, and he's not a priest. They worked for a craft store. And the law says that insurance companies, it mandates that they provide birth control as part of the company prescription plan. And the boss said no, because I don't believe in birth control. My female employees can't use birth control. Not if they work for me. If they want to use birth control, they're going to have to pay for it on their own. That's not right. That is that boss forcing his religious beliefs on people who don't share them. This baker from Colorado was on the Today Show. And he said, look, I would sell these gay people a cupcake, but I won't make them a wedding cake, because marriage is a religious entity. It's a religious experience. Well, you know what? That's what he believes. I don't believe that marriage is religious. The U.S. government doesn't believe that marriage is religious because they've turned it into a contract. It's a legal contract between two people. You don't need a priest to get married. You don't need a church to get married. You can get married at a courthouse. A cruise ship captain can marry you. So a wedding cake is not a religious thing. Just like a Christmas tree has nothing to do with Jesus. Atheists put Christmas trees in their home because they like the way they look and they need some place to put all the gifts they get their kids under. But it's not to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, because they don't believe in Jesus Christ, as is their First Amendment freedom of religion right to do so. A cake is a cake. It's sugar and flour and butter. And it tastes the same to gay people as it tastes to straight people. It's not a gay cake. It's a cake. It's not a straight cake. It's a cake. And it has nothing to do with religion. Nothing at all. In his defense, and this is the only way I can defend this man, is now he's saying that he doesn't make Halloween cakes either, because he doesn't believe in Halloween. He wouldn't make an anti-American cake, and he actually said he would not make a cake that celebrates any discrimination against the LGBTQ community. Well, isn't that just peaches and cream? I'm sorry. I hope that both straight and gay people will, I know gay people will, but I hope straight people in this town in Colorado, they have made it very clear that they don't want to say the name of the bakery, because he has gotten hate mail and all kinds of people not wanting to. I know as a straight woman, I would not walk into his bakery, because to me, it's not about the fact that he hates people that I actually care about, my LGBTQ friends and family members. It's the fact that he believes that he can force his religion on people who don't share it. And that's a big no-no in my book. I don't roll that way. Being religious is great. You have every right to do that. What you don't have the right to do is question me when I'm buying a cake or hiring a photographer to see if I pass your religion test. Is that really where we want this country to go? Are we going to start having to fill out questionnaires when we walk into a public, open to the public bakery or pizza shop or mechanic's shop or anybody else who goes to church on Sunday, are they going to be able to question us before their church tells them they're allowed to give us the service that we're paying for? No one asked this baker to come to the wedding, to bless the wedding, to have anything to do with the wedding other than bake a piece of cake. And I feel very sorry for this baker. Obviously, he believes that he is right and everybody else in this country is wrong. Everybody who agrees with the fact that the LGBTQ community has the same rights that he does to get married, to share in the government perks that married people get. Only married people get them. See, I didn't write those laws. The church didn't write those laws. The government did. The government is the reason why gay people need to get married, because most states have gotten rid of common law. Common law marriage didn't require a marriage license to get health insurance together, to be next of kin, to make medical decisions for each other, and to inherit each other's property when death occurs without having to pay the tax man inheritance tax. Only married couples get to do that. The church didn't say that. The United States government said that. This is why people get married. This is why I got married. I have been very honest about that. I lived with my husband for 8 years without a marriage license. We were very, very happy. Some of our religious family members weren't thrilled, but who the fuck cares? Because they didn't live in our house. It wasn't any of their business. We were happy. But the problem is, the more successful we got, when we had a one-bedroom apartment, no health insurance, no money, no savings, it didn't matter. But when we started getting things, when we started having assets, we had to protect those assets. When my mother died and I had to do the inheritance tax, I couldn't inherit from my own mother without the government taking their 4.5%. And then I found out that as my husband and I were living at the time, if one of us passed away, the other would be charged 15% of everything that they inherited by the U.S. government and the state government. That's pretty scary. Considering that we both worked for what we had, we both contributed to it, why should the government take it? But the day we got married, the government no longer had that right. If, God forbid, one of us dies, the other one inherits everything with no tax bill. That's important to us. As I have been reminded multiple times, especially recently down here at Buttonwood, I don't have a job. I don't have income. I mean, I have a job. This is my job, talking to all of you lovely people. But most people don't consider this a job, like it's not hard work or anything. It's easy to just come up with these things and talk to you all. And it is easy for me, but I guarantee most of them couldn't do it. They don't have I don't know, they just couldn't do it. But I do it, but I don't get paid for it. So because of that, my husband, because he's my legal husband, can claim me as a dependent. He couldn't do that if we weren't legally married. The state takes money. You have to go to the state, not the church, the state. Oh, the state takes your money. The church takes your money too when you get married. We all know that. But the state insists that you buy a marriage license. And they take money for that. They like getting that money. So for this dude to go on the Today Show and say that marriage is a religious thing, well, that's his belief, and he has a right to it. What he doesn't have the right to do is force me to believe that, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that marriage is a religious thing. I know people who do, and that's their right. But again, the wedding cake isn't up at the altar. It's not blessed by the priest. Has nothing to do with anything religious. It's a cake. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything that I wanted to tell you about this because it is very annoying and it's frustrating. Again, we have to understand that what the Supreme Court did yesterday was they misinterpreted the law, and now they have basically said that the federal government is actually going to side with religion, meaning that Christians who now, you remember how Christians are always saying, there's a war on Christianity, what? No, see, now there's a war on non-Christians. Anybody who is not a Christian can now be discriminated against by this baker in Colorado, by Hobby Lobby. Anyone who uses birth control should not go to work for Hobby Lobby because you're going to have to pay for it yourself when you shouldn't have to. The government, the Supreme Court has overstepped, and now they have instead of the scales being balanced, you can practice your religion, I can choose not to practice religion, and I don't have to live by your religion. The scales have now tipped. And the religious people, the Christians especially now, have more rights than those of us, anyone who refuses to practice their religion, to believe in their religion. I guess now a Christian baker can refuse to make a Hanukkah cake or a cake for a Jewish wedding. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because Christians don't think Jews are going to heaven because they don't believe Jesus Christ is their Savior. Is that going to be how we want our country to be run? That a Jew can't walk into a bakery owned by a Christian and get a cake for their child's bar mitzvah? That's what this ruling means. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, no matter what you think about gay marriage, there are consequences that stretch far beyond gay marriage. It means that a Christian can refuse to make a Muslim a cake. That a white supremacist bakery owner can refuse to make a cake for a black person or a Jewish person. It's their right, right? They have a right to free speech. They have a right to march down streets with their swastikas and their white pride. Now I guess they can refuse to make a birthday cake for a little black girl or a little Jewish girl. This is what I want you to think about when you listen to this ruling and you think it only affects the gay people. And since you personally don't like gay people, if you're one of those people, and you're right, well, think about what if it were you? If your last name is Seinfeld or Rosenstein or Bernstein, you may not be able to walk into a bakery and order a cake for one of your events. The Supreme Court just opened the door. Think about that. Think about you out there who are in an interracial relationship and you're getting married. What if you walk into a bakery and the owner is a member of the Ku Klux Klan or is a white supremacist? We've got a lot of them out there now. They're not in hiding anymore. They're going to come out and say, I don't make cakes for interracial marriages. And the Supreme Court just said that's absolutely fine. They have a right to do it. It's their First Amendment. Think about it. I am once again going to try to go back on vacation, but I can't wait to see the comments on this show. And let's remember something else. Christians say they preach love and peace. All I saw with this baker is hate and separatism. He wants to make sure that he only has customers who are just like him. And I've done shows about this. I've even talked about this place and how people only want to be around people who are just like them. And I don't fit in. And I don't want to fit in. I like to stand out. I like to be myself. And I am an individual. I don't play well with others because if I don't believe just like you do and you don't want me in your group, that's just fine. But I'm not going to pretend that I believe just like you do. Not to sit on the beach with you, not to wear the same t-shirt as you, and certainly not for a wedding cake. or any cake. Political Paula, out.